Well, welcome everyone to today's episode of TMI Advice You Didn't Want. We want to talk about famous people like, oh my God, what Taylor Swift. Wow, my brain went, duh, who am I talking about? We're talking about famous people like Taylor Swift today. And more importantly, how people that are really famous use things like manifestation. I can't tell you how many times I am talking to somebody that either knows somebody or someone is like saying, oh, yeah, all of these famous people really focus on manifestation because they know it works.
Mhm.
So, whenever somebody down the street makes fun of manifestation, I'm like, I don't think they know what they're talking about because they're living in a dump pile. They say manifestation doesn't work, but they're living in a dump pile. But someone like Taylor Swift is a billionaire. Like, hello? Like, so there's something to be said there. So we're gonna kind of pull that apart and talk about that today. So in case we haven't met, my name is Karen.
And my name is Ashley. And I love looking at Taylor Swift. And like for me, like I'm not like a crazy fan that knows so much about her. As we've talked on our podcast before, neither me nor you are big like celebrity people. But if there is a celebrity that I'm going to pay attention to, it's her. I don't know why. There's just something about her, which obviously is that magnetic part that has made her so famous. Um, And if you watch like her evolution through her fame, she really exploded after she stopped caring about the situations around her, and she really just started method acting. And I think throughout her whole like progression, you can see the method acting, but there was the flip where you could just really tell like it wasn't about like hoping and wishing, it was
Mhm.
the knowing. And that to me is the big game changer. And I
Yeah.
know in my own life, like when I think about it, it's like I believe this will happen, but there isn't this knowing that it's happening now. And that's the little jump that I know I'm missing. And you can see that of like she believes she's capable, she believes she wants it, and then all of a sudden there's the knowing. And in that knowing, from that point on, she's been breaking record after record and doing crazy, crazy thing after another. And I was one of those people that watched her podcast just recently, and she talks about numerology and like really throughout her whole um career she talks about numerology, and it's just interesting like the top people leave hints, and
Mhm.
all this woo-woo stuff people are using and people are utilizing.
Yeah. So, let's kind of break apart the whole method acting thing because I would actually refer to it, and the reason that I would refer to it is because I'm literally about to be certified as a Dr. Joe NCS trainer, but he refers to it as mental rehearsal. Okay. In my opinion, it is very similar, but let's explain what that is. Okay. So, mental rehearsal or method acting, you literally look at a situation and you go, okay, this is what happened in the situation. Okay. I see what happened. I don't like how this thing played out, right? Like maybe you had a conversation with your loved one or whatever, and you're like, I don't really like how that played out. What can I do differently next time? So you start to mentally prepare, you mentally rehearse how you are going to respond to your loved one when they say XYZ to you next time, right? You mentally rehearse how you are going to be, how you are going to show up, what things are you going to say, how you're going to come across in the situation, and it really is all about you, right? It doesn't matter what the other person does. You should always, in my opinion, have a relaxed, cool, calm response planned if the other person takes whatever's going on badly, right? Like, but you're mentally rehearsing how you want to be in a situation. Who do you want to become in a particular situation? Now, you can do this whether you're looking at how much money do I want to make? What does the person that's a millionaire or a billionaire, what do they like? What do they think? How do they feel? What are some actions that they take on a daily basis? And you are going to mentally rehearse that and then start to act that way and become that person. And that's when you're literally becoming. You have to believe it, but then you have to behave it, and then you become that person that has what you want. And you can do this in any situation. And the more you do this, the more you break this apart, the more you truly do become that person that you actually want. And like you said, like Taylor Swift, a lot of people do this because this is actually, they know that they are creating circuits in their brain for that person that they want to be.
Mhm.
And when we do that over and over and over again, the reality of what we want to create shows up.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how true this is, because this is literally what I am experiencing in my life right now, because I asked myself, okay, I know I want to get to this point in my life. What would future me look like? How would future me think? How would future me act? How would future me feel if I was in this point? And so I started behaving that way. And now things are showing up, opportunities are showing up that I'm like, this is crazy. And things are showing up when I'm thinking about it. Like, for example, I had been thinking, and Matthew and I had been talking about, we really want to get financially savvy in a lot of things like investing, have some sort of financial security. We've talked about having multifamily homes that we can rent to people. We've talked about that for years, but we didn't know where to go. I've been thinking about this a lot within the past week. And wouldn't you know, the right people came to me at the right time. Like, I literally have access to people that can teach me how to do all these things. Now I just have to figure out which one am I going to do first. Like, that's the piece that I'm like navigating at this point, where it's like, okay, what do I do first? But because I acted the person that wanted to draw those things to me, those things just naturally came up. And you have to become that person first before it just shows up in your life. It doesn't work the other way around. This isn't magic. It's literally just being the person that you know already has what they want.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the really big thing is it's acting as if you're already that person and knowing that you are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when you believe that that little shift makes all the difference in the world, and that's where the method acting and the rehearsal, you're actually doing it because you know it. And then everything starts showing up from there. And it's similar to like Jim Carrey, which I know we've talked about him on our podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but not super deeply. I think he'd be an interesting person to do a deep dive and learn a little bit more about him. But before, I think it was either Dumb or Dumber or Ace Ventura. I don't know which one was his
I
big
think it
break.
was Dumb and Dumber. That was his big break, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And so he used to drive, and I can't remember exactly what area it was. I think it was in California, and he would drive down all these million-dollar homes, probably billion-dollar homes, like huge homes of billionaires, I should say. And he would drive down the streets of them and imagine himself owning one. And then he also wrote a check for $1 million and put it in his wallet. So every time he opened up this wallet, he saw this $1 million check. And it's been a long time since I've like listened to his story, so I could be slightly off with this information.
No, you're doing
But
great.
date on the check. And when he got, I believe, like you said, Dumb and Dumber, it was for just over $1 million, and it was just before the date that was written on the check. And I could be slightly wrong with that, but I'm pretty confident there was a date. But the $1 million part, I know for sure. And the check part.
No, no, that's what I remember too. So, but the thing to remember too, like with him, I believe it took him about 5 years when he decided he wanted to do that. It took him about 5 years. Think about that for a second. That gave me big chills. When people decide that they want something, they'll give it like a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then they go, oh, this doesn't work. And then they give up.
Yeah.
That's not becoming the person that you want. I
Yeah.
don't fucking care who comes up to you and says, oh, you're not very good at this. well, you can get good at this.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, it's okay to get good at this. Like, I never really, unless it was with somebody that I was comfortable with, I never really aired my dirty laundry about what was going on in my business, if I was doing well or if I was struggling.
Yeah.
All anybody ever knew was I'm doing well and I love it, because that's all they needed to know, because I didn't want to hear people say things like, well, maybe you should try something else. Maybe that's not working out for you.
Mhm.
Or like, or, oh, it must be nice. Like, when people get really jealous, and they do still say that to me. Oh, it must be nice that you don't have to do XYZ. You don't have to work all the time.
Yeah.
Must be nice. You don't know what I put in. You don't know the time and the hours and the time of really like studying my craft.
Yeah.
There's something to that. Okay. Like, we do live in a 3D reality. This is really important. Okay. Yes, manifestation is like, it can be so quick, it can be so instant, but we still live in a 3D reality. And 3D reality still asks us to work on a space time continuum where we have to go from A to B. And so a lot of times that means that we do need to put in some work on a 3D level.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to say quote unquote work, because sometimes what you do when you're building a side hustle, it can be really fun. Like, for example, I love social media. I will probably never not do social media, because to me, it's really enjoyable to be like, oh, let's create some sort of story around like a product, a service, or whatever. And let's talk about it and share it in a way that makes people interested in what I'm talking about. Right. That to me is enjoyable, but it took a while to hone that craft. It took some time. Yes, I did have some skill sets under my belt already. Like, I was naturally very confident on camera. I had that confidence already. But once I started getting on camera, I would be like, okay, well, I'd watch myself and go, well, maybe I could loosen up here. Maybe I could do things differently there and be a little less robotic here. And the more you do that, you're honing your craft. And there's something special to be said when you hone your craft and you can tell that somebody enjoys it. That's when you're in the flow, and when you're creating that magic, and
Yeah.
that manifestation can just show up instantly, because you've become the person that has maybe a huge social media following, or whatever it is that you want to put in that box, right? Like, you've become that person. And
Mhm.
so we look at people like Jim Carrey, Taylor Swift, a lot of people really that are very famous. They talk about Courtney, the Kardashians, like, all of them talk about manifestation. Okay. I'm not into the Kardashians. I'm really not into a whole, like, the one that I'm the most interested in is Jim Carrey and all the ones that I just listed. But these people have made billions. Hello. Like, if they're talking about manifestation, maybe there's something to it. Maybe it's not something that's just woo woo that the crazy girl next door talks about. Maybe there's something to it, right? And what's interesting is the more that I really look into like science around this, is actually that science is backing this up.
Yeah.
It's just that we're very slow to accept it, because it's like, well, is it? And so that slowness to accept, I think that's starting to change. I actually don't think, I know it's starting to change, but there's still people that will push against that. And you can see that when on our TikTok profile, actually, where
Yeah.
it's like, people, I'll say something and people are like, oh, this is just woo woo crap. And it's like, well, actually, science talks about this. Let's look at a scientific research article. And at the end of the day, if you vetted your scientific research article, you can tell that they've done enough research, they had enough participants, yada, yada, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
You can't really argue with it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, something to think about.
Well, and it's interesting because just recently, I found a podcast through TikTok, that it was a neuroscientist, and with her first like kind of amount of research, it's like the law of attraction is real. And so she's a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist, and she was proving that law of attraction is real, and she wrote a book that included some of that information. And she said that there is an amount that you have to like work and put in. And
Hmm.
so obviously that's going to be very much more on the scientific basis because there needs to be tangible results. And
Hmm.
so, but she is proving the law of attraction and energy and all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting because she talks about how like even like our body releases our stress hormone through our sweat. And
Yeah.
so like literally you become like the five people that you spend the most time around, and people have said that forever, but it actually like is true, and she's been able to scientifically back that if people start getting divorced around you, the chances of you getting a divorce are higher because you become like the people around you. If your boss is overweight and stressed, there's a higher chance that you're overweight and stressed. And it's really interesting because she talks about like alpha males and alpha females and all that kind of stuff. But it all comes back down to this is the stuff that woo-woo people have talked about forever, and science is backing it. And more recently, I think in the last couple of years, her husband died. And through that experience, she is now scientifically backed research of that we can communicate with people that have passed on.
Hmm.
And it's so fascinating to me because she is a scientist that needed evidence of all these things. And because she's also a psychiatrist that would work with people that were grieving and work with people that were struggling in different areas with their mental health, she actually was like, am I going crazy? Like, do I need to go to a psych ward? And she would mentally assess herself and have friends mentally assess her as well. And through that process, she was able to actually figure out scientifically based information and wrote a book about how you can talk to dead people and
Yeah.
how I think she said as a human race we were told about five senses in our and she said there's 32, and she
Okay.
doesn't explain all of them.
Do you remember her name? What, like, do you remember the book? You're gonna need to
I don't
share.
remember her I don't remember the book name. It's, I believe, a one-word easy title, but her first name is Tara, so it's Dr. Tara, and I don't
Okay.
remember her last name, but I can easily find that
Hmm.
out as well. So yeah, but yeah, I found
Yeah.
it
I
super
mean,
interesting. But yeah, I can find that.
yeah, that honestly is what drew me to Dr. Joe the most because there are a lot of books out there that while they are really true, there's sometimes where you maybe don't need the scientific backing, but when you have it, you're
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, I can be more persuasive to other people. So, for example, um, on one of the TikToks that I did recently on our TikTok profile, I was talking about how the Schumann resonance, the graph had gone down for a couple days. And it was kind of a joke, like the graph went down, haha, we broke it, like that kind of thing. It just went down, guys. Like it's not the end of the world. Yes, we've had some pretty wild experiences with energy. The graph went down. It happens, right? So the joke was it went down. And I had so many people on that TikTok say, well, there's evidence that the Schumann resonance doesn't actually affect us. And I said, you know what? I think I need to show people that that's not true actually anymore, that thought process is actually an old thought process. Now, I don't really need to persuade somebody that is so hard-headed, but I want somebody that is maybe teeter-tottering on the line going, is this stuff real? To see that, wait a minute, science is actually backing this. So I actually went to like the Heart Math Institute. They're one of my favorite research institutes. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. They do a ton of research on heart rate variability, your nervous system, your cardiovascular system, and the Schumann resonance. Okay. So all of that, like they have so much research around it. Well, they have actually multiple articles, but the first one that popped up for me basically was talking about how they had done research and they found that the Schumann resonance actually affected things like our cardiovascular health, our blood pressure, our heart rate, our nervous system. Like it affected a lot of things. And so I can come back and say, wait a minute, though, but science is saying, like, this isn't pseudoscience anymore. When you look and see how many people they're testing, how they're testing, that's the other thing. When companies like this are showing you how they're testing, and it's like, okay, this actually is replicatable. If somebody else wanted to come in, because that's important in any kind of research study, that someone else could come in and replicate what you did and had similar results. If that's possible, then it's like, wait a minute, this is real, right? You can't say it's pseudoscience anymore. And so, like, that's really what drew me to Dr. Joe, because I work in a very logic based career, right? Not that I need the logic, but that the people around me need it.
Yeah.
I've always been the person that's like, oh, that feels really right. And I have always had some sort of like intuition around things, right? Oh, that feels really right. But I know that a lot of people don't have that, or they don't listen to it, right? So when I can say, hey, read this book, like I have a coworker, she's at a Dr. Joe event right now because of me. I had no idea it was because of me that she went, but she did. She's there right now. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, it's because she read what he said. It made sense to her on a scientific and an energetic level. And she went, yeah, I think I want to do this.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said with what science can show us as we're looking at the woo-woo and the manifestation as well as seeing, okay, all of these celebrities are doing it. Maybe they know something that I don't.
Yeah, exactly. So, the doctor that I was referencing, it's Dr. Tara Swart, I believe. So
Mm-hmm.
Swart. Have you heard of her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
No?
haven't, but I'm gonna look into her.
I believe she has her own podcast, but I was watching both of her interviews with the Diary of the CEO of a CEO, Diary of a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I watched her. And then her book is called The Source. And in her book, she talks about talking with dead people. And I don't know if that's the one that talks about the law of attraction or not, but she does give her evidence and she does talk about that a lot. And in one of the podcasts, she also talks about intuition and how it's a real thing and how it's called like a gut instinct. And it actually comes from your gut brain. And talks about the scientific part of that, of when we have better gut health, we have better intuition. And so it's
Yeah.
really interesting because it's taking all the woo-woo stuff to a whole nother level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the day, everything really is about like belief. Like it's kind of like when we talk about diseases, like diseases start with the mind, but our situations, our food, our environments, that all affect it. And like my partner eats unbelievable amounts of food, and we've talked about this on the podcast too. And when I met him, he had never gone to a gym, ate shit tons of food, and he had a six pack. And so it was his mental part of it. So we can have amazing intuition without having amazing gut health,
Mm-hmm.
but we can also incorporate that as well and utilize and unlock deeper levels, especially
Yeah.
if we like. So I am someone that struggles with gut health. So if I was to fine tune that because my mental, whatever, whether it was how I came into this world or I unlocked that through my childhood or adolescence years, um, somewhere I have created gut health problems. So if I manifest that or rewire that, however you want to say that, to be different, I'm sure my intuition will slightly change. But I also know that I've had really good intuition for the majority of my life as well. So it's curious because that is something that I want to play with because I do want to and am starting to work on my gut health. So I'm curious to see how that all intertwines and changes in my personal life.
I personally believe that because I've been working on my gut health for a few years now, and I've really started to lock in recently. And like, oh, I don't have to worry about the things that I used to have to worry about
Yeah.
because I have so deeply focused
Yeah.
on my gut health. But I think more importantly, my mental health, because your mental thought processes is what creates at the end of the day. So, but as I've done that, I can definitely tell you my intuition has grown. And so I do think that that is definitely connected and definitely tied.
Yeah.
But as you said, I don't think that it's necessary to have all of that because we're gonna have that regardless, because anybody like me and Ashley, we're special, but we're not that special. Like everybody has this
Yeah.
potential and this possibility. It's just about tapping into it. And what I mean by tapping into it is you have to actually believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
So this is part of that believing and then becoming the person that like has the intuition. You have to believe first that you do have the intuition and then you have to become the person that has that.
Yeah.
So it's like you imagine what would it be like if I was able to intuitively decide what was best. Like I didn't have to ask all these people around me. I could just intuitively know this is the right move or this isn't the right move, right? Like you start to like really understand yourself on a deep level. And I think that this can be really fine-tuned the more that you sit with yourself because then you understand the nuances of what's happening with your body. So for example, like in meditation the past couple weeks, my body does some weird stuff. I don't know if it's the energy that's happening. I don't know if I'm upgrading. I don't really care. Like it just feels really nice because it's like, oh, I just had a really strange spasm and I can tell that I just released something from that.
Mhm.
Or my body needed to like move to kind of get rid of something that wasn't necessary in my energy field anymore, right? Like you kind of intuitively know when that's happening. And you don't have to ask somebody else around you, well, why did this happen? And you just kind of know because you've sat with yourself long enough to go, oh, that's exactly what was happening. I don't have to ask anybody. It's not really a question anymore. So I think that this can be developed the longer that we spend time with ourselves.
Mhm.
And I will say one of the biggest blessings was for me 2020 when everything shut down because it gave me the opportunity that we couldn't really spend a lot of time with a lot of people, right? Like we couldn't be around a lot of people. It gave me the chance to actually understand what it meant to really sit with myself.
Mhm.
What did that actually mean and what did that actually look like?
Yeah.
And that was like I feel like that, like I say this to you all the time, Ashley, that was like my cocooning era. And I was allowed to be cocooning at that time. While I didn't like it because I like being around people, I also learned that I can love to be with myself. And now I don't feel like I have to be around people anymore. Whereas before it was like, oh, but I really love people. I want to be around people all the time. Now I'm like, oh, I love both.
Yeah.
And I think that that happened because I spent so much time in that cocooning era in 2020 and going, okay, let's hang out with me and see what me really likes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's interesting because I think that also might have just progressed naturally because I went through that same process. And when I've always felt the desire to be around people, and over the last few years, that has started to change where I don't feel like I need to be around people and I'm good either way. And it's shifted to I would rather be around the right people. And
yes. 100 fucking percent. Because when you're around the wrong people, you get drained.
oh, for sure. And I've always
Yeah.
had that kind of idea because I started in network marketing when I was 18 and they preached that a lot. Like you're like the five people that you're around. They talk about that all the time. And so I've always kind of had that idea of surround myself with people that are good people, but I've been getting pickier and pickier and pickier over
Yeah.
the years, and especially with kids. That to me is like a whole new, like, oh my gosh, like having friends with kids is very hard. I parent in a very different way, and I really struggle with. I can meet wonderful friends that have my back, that support me and are great, but I really struggle with spending time with them and their kids being around my kids and the people that I enjoy around as an adult. I usually don't enjoy them being around my kids with their kids. So it's funny how that works, but yeah, so it's definitely a different dynamic of what your principles are when you're raising your children. So, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's a whole other can of worms that we could jump into. But yeah, I mean, it really does come down to who are the people that you're spending time with. Because, so for example, someone like Jim Carrey, someone like Taylor Swift, the Kardashians, they're spending time around the people that they know
Hmm.
are going to feed the thing that they want to create in their life, right? So if they wanted to create the fame, then that means they have to hang out with people that are famous. So it's kind of like, so we have these things in our brain called mirror neurons. When we are around people, we are mirroring them. Okay. So think about when you're feeding a baby. You say, okay, here comes the birdie. And you kind of like, as you're bringing it to the baby, you open your mouth too. Like you're opening your mouth because you're mirroring what you want them to do, right?
Yeah.
That's a mirror neuron. You're showing them what you want to create.
Yeah.
So it works the same way when you are trying to create health or wealth or fame or whatever it is that you want to create in your life.
Yeah.
You've got to get around the people that already know how to do it. You've
Yeah.
got to get around the people that it's like, and sometimes it's like, well, how do I do that? Like I said, this past week, I've been thinking to myself, I really want to figure out how to do real estate investing the right way.
Hmm.
I don't know who to get around though. And literally, this person falls in my lap, and I'm like, holy shit. Okay. Like I asked for it, and here it is. Now I am prepared to move forward, knowing that this person can help me go where I want to go, right? Like it's kind of like this give and take with it too, where it's like you can have the thought, and then the universe can bring it to you, and then the question is, what are you going to do with it too?
Yeah.
Right? Like, are you going to hang out with this person that has what you want, or are you going to go back to what's comfortable and
Yeah.
say, well, I don't want to hang out with that person because she already has everything. She makes me feel like crap. Well,
Yeah.
maybe you need to rewire that part of your brain that says that you can't do what she did or what they did,
Yeah.
and that you need to rewire something in order to create what they did. Because I promise you, like, we're all special, but people that are famous and rich, they're not that special. They
No.
just got around the right circle of people,
Yeah.
and they manifested the right situations, the right people, and then they took advantage of them. Okay, this is really important too. You have to take advantage of what is given to you as well,
Mhm.
because you could have all these people knocking on your door saying, "Hey, like we want to help you," but if you keep slamming the door in their face,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to open that opportunity to what's coming your way.
I have like three stories that relate to what you just said. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So the first one is on Taylor Swift's podcast on her like fiance now, his podcast. She talks about how your energy is a luxury item and you need to
Mm.
view it as such. And so if people are saying stuff about you and or including you in things, like you need to view your time and your energy as luxury, and only luxury things and people get it. And it's
Yes.
expensive and luxurious and all that kind of stuff. And that's like a trending sound right now because people relate to that and they know that's truth. And so keeping that in mind is huge. Same idea with this Dr. Tara. She talks about on the podcast how um, psychologically, we are attracted to people at the same level as us, and we will not attract people at a lower or higher level. And I watched that, and it's kind of interesting because I intuitively knew this. So when I first got together with my partner, my daughter had some friends that were a little bit like, huh, interesting. And I remember thinking, I'm like, I wonder if she will have the same friends as she interacts with me more because her mom is a very low energy person, and I've watched as she connects with me more, her friends have changed, her behaviors have changed, and it was literally a thought process I had is like she's going to start attracting different people the more she spends time with me and with my partner as well, because we had a period of time where the kids were being withheld from us. So watching that shift was really interesting. Watching her life choices has been really interesting because it's changed dramatically through that process. Obviously, there's a matter there of free will too, because it is her life.
Hmm.
But yeah, they talk about how you are going to attract similar people. And then my third one was really interesting because I have talked about um, attracting the right people and taking opportunities to my kids. And so I talk about that often. And this last week, we went on a vacation to an island here in British Columbia. And we just happened to be walking around, and I just had this really good feeling while we were. And Derek was like, "Oh, this is a paint shop. This is really pretty," and pointed at one of the paintings in the window, and it looked closed, it looked different. And I just like intuitively walked in, and this lady was friendly, a little bit different. And so you kind of like when you are around that kind of situation, you the 3D judgment gets into
Hmm.
your head, but intuitively, I felt so connected and so at peace. It was so weird. And so it overrode everything else. And so she asked each of my children and then my partner if they wanted to paint with her. And they asked each individually. And then she asked me last. And I am the one that seizes opportunities. And so I said yes. And I'm like, what kind of painting though? And like my kids all love art. My partner doesn't. So like they could have said yes. And so she asked me to paint with her on one of her giant canvases that she sold for $25,000. And she offers that opportunity to people and then she says it's good luck. And then she has you write on the back of the canvas something that you want to manifest. Like it was like
Hmm.
so insane. And like had this whole thing and then she invited us to her island in Hawaii. Like it was a crazy, crazy experience. And it's just like when you're open and willing to receive,
Hmm.
you will unlock really crazy fucking experiences and people walking into your life.
Yeah, which is the best. That's when
Yes.
you're like, okay, the magic's happening. Where did this come from?
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so I think that's a really great place to kind of end off here. So, if you're listening on your favorite podcast host, go ahead, give us a 5 star. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. And if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead, give us a like, give us a subscribe. And once again, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are as well. So with that, we're going to call TMI Advice You Didn't Want a wrap for today. Thanks so much for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue hanging out with us and don't forget to subscribe.